Mario is a character I'm sure needs little to no introduction. He's so iconic that his popularity rivals that of Mickey Mouse or Pac-Man. That popularity is well deserved, as the games he's featured in are more often than not instant classics that shape generations of games that come after them. As is common with such popularity, there's bound to be dozens of spin-offs to cash in on the success of the series. From racing games to various RPGs, they're all fresh new takes on the character and its world, and that's where Luigi comes in. Being Mario's twin brother, it's only natural that he would have a few spin-offs of his own, the most prominent being Luigi's Mansion. Luigi's Mansion is a series of horror games that star the lovable goofball as he explores various haunted locales. While all of the games are good in their own right, today I just wanted to take a look at the Gamecube original. Released in 2001 as a launch title for the world's favorite purple lunchbox, Luigi's Mansion stars Luigi as he explores a mansion he won in a contest he didn't enter. Unfortunately for him, the place is haunted, but to be honest, in this housing market, I'd take what I can get. Despite being over 20 years old, the game holds up remarkably well. I remember being extremely obsessed with this game as a kid. I would spend hours watching Let's Plays, researching the game's beta, and maybe sometimes even playing the game. With it being Halloween and all, I felt like looking at a spooky game to commemorate the occasion. So without further ado, welcome to Luigi's Mansion. Luigi's Mansion originally started as just a tech demo, but it showed really well at press events and trade shows, so Nintendo decided to turn it into a full game. The original vision for the game seemed to be a lot darker. Literally, the game is a lot darker here than what we got in the final. There were also ghosts that would jump scare Luigi if you weren't careful, and the less I say about Nightmare Luigi, the better. While the game is technically a horror game, I wouldn't call it particularly scary. The game is dark for sure, and the ghosts do pop out to give Luigi a good scare. But they all have pretty goofy designs and are all brightly colored. It's really only a horror game aesthetically, but I think it works since it's targeted towards a younger audience. This game was the first to personify Luigi as more of a coward, which I really appreciate since it gives him more of a unique character. Before, he was mostly just relegated to the player 2 character, so it's nice to see him get a more defined personality. As stated earlier, Luigi won this mansion in a contest he didn't even enter, and he invited Mario to go with him to check it out. Upon arriving though, Mario is nowhere to be seen, and after looking around for him a little bit, Luigi is ambushed by some ghosts. Thankfully, he's saved by Professor Egad, and the two narrowly make their escape. After escaping into Egad's lab, the scientist tells Luigi that he's been living there for over 20 years, but that the mansion only appeared a few days ago. After learning Mario went into the mansion alone and hasn't returned, Egad equips Luigi with the Poltergust 3000, a vacuum that allows Luigi to capture ghosts. From here, the story takes a backseat, as the gameplay is the major focus of Luigi's Mansion. Luigi is tasked with exploring the mansion and capturing any ghost he finds along the way. Just about every room is infested with ghosts, which can be drawn out by either entering a room or interacting with certain objects. After exposing the ghosts, you have to stun them with the flashlight to expose their heart, which then allows you to capture them in a little tug-of-war minigame. While the combat is extremely simple mechanically, there's a few small nuances that make it more engaging. For example, you can stun and capture multiple ghosts at once, which feels insanely satisfying to pull off. These ghosts aren't just going to sit there and let you capture them though. There's a variety of different ghost types, ranging from the standard golden ghost, the purple punchers, the blue twirlers, the grabber ghost, and the Michael Bay ghost. Each has a varying amount of HP, so if you aren't careful they might attack you while you're dealing with other ghosts. After defeating all the ghosts in a room, the lights will turn on and usually an item or chest will spawn. Chests can contain a variety of different things, from keys, money, and even dirty shoes. Speaking of money, the mansion is littered with it. From gold coins to bills and even full-on diamonds. Just about everything in the mansion has some kind of shmoney hiding inside of it. It's fucking everywhere. Money doesn't have a practical use in the game. Its only real purpose is dictating what rank you get at the end of the game when Egad decides to build Luigi a real mansion. But who doesn't like picking up loads of cash, right? While lit up rooms are nice and safe, it doesn't hurt to poke around in the dark every once in a while. Some rooms are hiding special ghosts called speedy spirits or golden mice, which don't count to keeping the room dark but do drop loads of cash when you capture them. They only appear once though, so you have to be ready to catch them when they appear. There's even an abundance of secret rooms that house even more goodies, so it doesn't hurt to poke around every corner. Some rooms contain elemental metals that allow the poltergust to shoot 3 different elements: water, fire, and ice. These metals are mostly used to solve small environmental puzzles, as well as capturing special elemental ghosts. These ghosts are pretty rare, but they're pretty annoying when they do show up, because you don't always have the element required to combat them. While sometimes the element you need is in the room with you, Sometimes they aren't, meaning you have to backtrack to another room to get the right one. It would have been cool if you could cycle between them at any time, rather than having to go back and find one when you need it. Each metal has a variety of uses. For example, the mansion has various fake doors that will crush Luigi if he opens them, and if you want to get rid of them, you can burn them down with the fire metal. The ice metal is extremely situational, only being used once or twice to my knowledge. But the water metal is used most out of all of them. Not only is it used to put out fires and terrorize a small child, but it's also used to water various plants that are scattered around the mansion, which usually rewards you with cash. There's even a special plant in the backyard that grows over the course of the adventure, but if you water it completely, it drops tons of money, along with one of 2 gold diamonds that are worth the most money in the game. Some rooms are home to higher grade ghosts known as portrait ghosts. The portrait ghosts were originally captured by Egad so that he could study them, but they were set free by King Boo before they built the mansion. These are a lot trickier than your standard ghost. They usually require a little puzzle solving to expose their heart. Not only that, but they have around 100 HP, which is a lot more than the standard ghosts have. After figuring out how to expose their heart, you're incentivized to capture them in one attempt. As the longer you're locked onto them, the more money you receive for beating them in the form of these pearls. You're even ranked on your performance at the end of each area. Depending on how many attempts it takes to capture a ghost, the frame around their portrait will change. You can look at these portraits at any time afterwards by going to the gallery at Egad's lab. Capturing them in one attempt is easier said than done though, as these ghosts are stronger and drag Luigi around the room, and if you collide with something, the capture attempts will end. As they get to lower health, they also have a chance to drop a poison mushroom, which if collected not only damages Luigi but also makes him shrink, preventing him from using the poltergust for a short time. I really like these mini-boss fights. They reward mastery of the game's controls and mechanics. A little ways into the game, Luigi accidentally unleashes an army of boos into the mansion, pretty much your standard Thursday night. Unlike standard ghosts, boos reside in lit rooms and hide under furniture to avoid being seen. By using a boo radar Egad gives you, you can determine where the boo might be hiding, although sometimes it's a trick and you find a boo ball or bomb instead. After exposing the boo, you capture it like a normal ghost. While boos start out pretty harmless, as you get further into the game they get an obnoxious amount of HP, which is made even more annoying if the boo leaves the room you're in, forcing you to chase it throughout the mansion. This can be made even worse if the boo escapes into a room that you can't access, since you'll probably forget it's there and then have to go on a wild goose chase to find it later. Fortunately, you don't need every boo to beat the game, you only need around 40 to access the final boss, 15 of which come from one of the main bosses, but collecting them all gives you the second of those gold diamonds I mentioned earlier. Speaking of the main bosses, there are 4 in total, and each one gives you a key into one of the mansion's 4 main areas. They're kind of mixed quality-wise, but I wouldn't call any of them bad. Chauncey and Bogmire are pretty similar mechanically. You dodge attacks and shoot them back at the boss to make them vulnerable. Vincent Van Gogh is probably the lamest of them all, since he's just a ghost rush rather than anything unique. But I like the context of him being the one who made all the ghosts that were in the mansion. The worst boss by far is Boolossus, an amalgamation of 15 boos that make one giant one. Boolossus is too big to capture on his own, but you can pop him on these unicorn statues that are on either side of the arena to split him back up. You can then freeze the boos with the ice element and capture them one by one. While it's a really cool idea on paper, the further you get into the boss, the faster boos run around when popped, which makes them really hard to freeze. It feels like a crapshoot whether or not you'll be able to freeze them when they get down to the final 2 or 3. It's just really annoying, but it's still a pretty interesting boss. Something I've always admired about this game is its atmosphere. Despite having a goofier tone than most horror games, the mansion still feels gloomy and alive. Just about every room has some kind of in-universe purpose. It makes the mansion feel lived in, despite only appearing a few days before Luigi arrives. A bunch of rooms have books that you can read, that not only have tips on how to deal with certain bosses or obtain hidden goodies, but give a little insight into the lives of each ghost as well. There's so many nooks and crannies that things are hidden in. It always keeps you on your toes as you explore the dark hallways of each area. While the mansion is mostly on the realistic side of things, as realistic as a haunted mansion can be anyway, there's occasionally the more abstract rooms that look really cool.
How do you like that, Obama? I'm pissed on the moon, you idiot!
The floors and walls are oozing with dust and cobwebs, and each room is visually distinct so that you know where you have and haven't been. One of my favorite moments in the game is the transition into Area 4, where a lightning strike causes the power to go out and make the whole mansion dark again, meaning numerous ghosts appear in every room as you make your way down to the basement and turn the power back on. Not only is this situation extremely tense, but it also gives you an opportunity to grab any of the speedy spirits or gold mice you may have missed along the way, which I always thought was a cool touch. One thing I didn't notice until this playthrough is that if you sit next to the well in the backyard, you can hear Mario screaming for Luigi's help, which is a really haunting detail. Visually, I think the game still holds up pretty well, which is impressive for a GameCube launch title. Luigi is surprisingly expressive, which is good since his new personality was a focus of this game. The game is dark enough to keep the atmosphere tense, but still bright enough to see what's going on around you, something I feel the later games in this series struggled with. Instead of having a jump button, this game makes the huge innovation of giving Luigi a Mario button.
Mario! Mario! Mario!
Life-changing stuff, I know. This game doesn't have a lot of music, but what it does have is really good. The credits theme in particular is extremely nostalgic, on top of being really catchy. Most of the music is different takes on the same melody, but the way they use it is extremely charming. In dark rooms, Luigi will frantically hum along to the main theme. After lighting up a room, he will happily whistle the theme instead. Something I've always loved is how Luigi gets more and more frantic in his humming and whistling the lower your HP gets. Another thing I never noticed until this playthrough is that when Luigi is in a dark room with ghosts in it, the music in the background becomes slightly distorted while he hums. While there's a lot to love about this game, it's not perfect. As I sort of mentioned before, getting a good rank on some of the portrait ghosts feels way more luck-based than it should be. The game is also extremely linear. Each key only opens one door and one door only, and while I think it works for the most part, I think it would have been really cool if you could pick which room you wanted to go into in a given area and make your own route. Backtracking is also a bit of a pain, especially in the last area of the game. There's one optional key that can make it a little bit easier about halfway through the game, but the only other way of quickly traveling from one place to another is through scanning a mirror on the camera on the Game Boy Horror, which teleports Luigi back to the lobby of the mansion. Oh yeah, I can't believe I almost forgot the Game Boy Horror. It pretty much acts as your map, letting you see what doors you have keys for and how many items you've collected. It also gives you a cute little description of each portrait ghost as you collect them, which are really interesting to read. The camera also allows you to scan various objects around the house and see Luigi's thoughts on them, some of which are pretty funny. About halfway through the game, Luigi finds Mario trapped in the basement, and that his captor is none other than King Boo. After getting the basement key and taking care of all the boos, Luigi faces King Boo to get his brother back. King Boo just got back from Ghost Comic-Con, so he fights Luigi in his new Bowser cosplay. I've always really liked this final boss. Bowser is massive in size compared to Luigi, and he can deal a stupid amount of damage if you aren't careful. You damage him by throwing bombs back at him and knocking his head off, kicking King Boo out of his costume and allowing you to whittle down his HP. He has a lot of it, but it goes down a lot quicker than most Boos, and it's the final boss, so it makes more sense here. One detail I've always loved about this boss is that sometimes when he puts the Bowser head back on, it goes on backwards, which makes him run around the arena like a dumbass. After finally capturing King Boo, Luigi steals his crown and takes Mario back to Egad's lab, where they put him through the portrait machine backwards to get him back to normal.
Mario? Mamma mia.
I've always loved this last shot of Luigi. of him laughing at Mario while simultaneously crying tears of joy after seeing he's safe. It's why I love Luigi as a character, when compared to Mario's blank slate personality. Luigi's Mansion is and always has been a joy to play, and in my opinion has continued to stand the test of time. I always find myself playing through this game around this time of year, thanks in part to its short and sweet length. Even going for 100%, it's only about 4 or 5 hours long, which while it's sticking points for critics upon release, I think it's better for it nowadays, as it doesn't overstay its welcome. From its simple but addicting gameplay to its top-notch atmosphere, I don't think I can ever see myself getting sick of this game, even as I continue to play it year after year. While I think the later games in this series are still good, I feel like they lose a lot of the charm this first entry had, leaning way heavier into the goofier side of things. But that's for some other time. For now, I'll just reminisce on the countless childhood memories I have with this game. Luigi's Mansion is, and always will be, a timeless classic. Hey, thanks for making it this far into the video. If you liked what you saw, please leave a like and a comment. It really helps me out as a budding creator. My next video is going to be on Sonic Frontiers. It'll be my first contemporary review, so it'll probably take a little bit more time than normal, but I'll try to get it out as fast as I can. If you want updates on future videos or to just see some stupid stuff I come up with, follow me on Twitter. That's about it for me. Thanks again for watching.